Hey, welcome to Band Advice TV, and this is the Matt and Mark About Music podcast. I am your host, Mark Allen V, and this is my co-host,
Matt Mason.
How's it going, man?
It's going good. What's up?
Good. Oh, geez, staying busy, but keeping it real and carving out time to do the thing I love, and it's music. So,
how do you write a song anway?
I don't know. Just kind of play C, G, and D, and then come up with something. No, I mean, songwriting. Geez, gosh.
Think about your songs that people respond to the most, and just kind of explain how you wrote it, just in a nutshell.
So, when I write songs, it usually just comes out of a quick inspiration. I don't sit down and say I'm going to write this song, write that song. So, a lot of times it's just I'll be messing around, noodling on the guitar, or just doing whatever.
Should you be doing your homework when you're doing this?
I should be, but it doesn't always work out that way. I don't ever. There was a time when I would set out to try to write a song that sounded like another song,
right.
And then I just kind of like that's just not cool. It's not that it's not cool, but you run into a real sticky situation where you may be plagiarizing ever so slightly, and in today's world, if you have two notes that are touching, they'll call it out on you. So, but usually they'll start off with I'm just strumming some chords, and depending on what mood I'm in, I'll maybe hum a melody or just some lyrics will pop in my head, and I'll build off of that, and get about halfway through it, and then wait another 2 or 3 years to finish it off. I have tons of songs that I'm just waiting for that perfect one line in there, and it's usually not even in the chorus. It's like I just want this verse to say this, and I can't figure out how to do it. And so
where does that inspiration come from? Those one line that finishes it all up, ties it all together. Where does that come from?
Gosh, a lot of times it's just I force myself to do it. Other times it's just rewriting the line before it. That's actually been the most successful. The recent song I wrote that I debuted today in church, I had written everything except I needed that one line to tie it all together, and I couldn't find it, and I just ended up messing around and rewrote the line before it, and it's like, oh, right there it is. It all came together, and so
awesome.
You start going down one path. It's like, yeah, try another path, and sometimes that finishes it off. So
yeah.
How about yourself?
Well, it starts sometimes with a line of lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it starts with a poem that I've just written down.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what the music is going to be. It's just I got this thought or this feeling. I want to get it down on paper before I forget it. Sometimes it's, hey, I've got this really cool guitar riff or chord changes. Let me try to flesh this out to where it sounds like something, and then see where I can drop in some good poignant lyrics or something. And it's just, man, there's just no hard or fast way. And you read about all these guys that, I'm a professional songwriter. I'm like, well, does that mean you show up, clock in at 8 o'clock, and then you write songs till 5 o'clock? And
a lot of
go
times,
home?
yeah. Nashville, especially.
I guess that is how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a foreign concept to me. I've just always got a little catalog of riffs, lyrics, parts of song. Just. Writer's block is never the problem. The problem is getting it all together where it looks like one puzzle instead of
sure.
4 puzzles,
Right. The bridge fitting in where it needs to.
Well, remember when I was trying to finish Between the Night? Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And all it took was that one little hook that you came up with.
Yeah, you were working on it, and I think you went off to get something because you were in the other room of the studio, and I just started doing it, and you're like, I could hear from the other room, and you're like, that's it! Right there, that is it!
Yeah.
It's excited, and we finished it off.
Man, and that song
recorded
served
it that
us
weekend.
really well.
Yeah.
We played that on television numerous times. It was on the compilation record that came out, right after the album came out.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've just gotten a lot of real positive feedback out of that song, And I don't think it would have been quite as good, or it may not have ever been finished had it not been for, just, hey... just like that.
By the way, did you send the royalty check to my old address or this one? Because I haven't got it yet.
Well,
you got to actually make money on it first. Don't you?
Right.
That's the key.
I saw a picture. A guy got a check for a penny, and he's like, I can't believe they spent 49 cents to send me this check for a penny.
Well, that happens, right?
Yeah, it happens. Now,
that's really great though, because when you did record those and when you played them live, and I think you even played that. You played that on TV one time.
Yeah,
It's just like I was like
more than once.
Yeah, and I was just like, dude, I helped write that song. That's
Yeah.
cool.
We played that on Ben Sumner. We played it on KTUL the last time, the couple times ago when we were up there.
Right.
I played Truck Stop Sinatra. I played that on Man Cow.
That was a fun one to write.
Yeah, now that took a little longer because we were kind of like, all right, we love BJ and the Bear. We want to make a truck driving country song kind of like this.
Yeah, because you came up with the idea. You came up with the Truck Stop Sinatra concept. The guy singing on the CB. It's like, oh, right. And we started talking about going to the Dixie Truck Stop. And places because, we've both done our fair share of road trips. So it's like, what are the iconic areas that a trucker would go to? And so, yeah, that was a fun one to write, too.
That was cool. And I'm telling you, man, I play that, I still play it now.
Nice.
And, people seem to really dig it. They respond to it in a positive way, in a good way. And so, those are some of the ones that stick with people. And so that's what every songwriter hopes, that everything you write's like that, but it just isn't. It just isn't like that.
Yeah.
I mean, for every country roads, there's, something that's not as well known.
Right, and it's timing is everything. Like they say, location. Well, timing is equally.
Yeah.
Would country roads have been any popular if it came out 6 months earlier or 6 months later? Hard to say. What was the climate at the time? What other songs are going out at that time, and what's happening in the world? So it changes everything. But yeah, when you there is something really special though when you play your song, and somebody responds to it and tells you how much it likes or how it touches them, how it moves them. Good to Be Alive. That one that I wrote back, when we first started playing together. It was one of those spring days. One of the first really nice Saturdays.
Oh,
It
yeah.
gets up to about 65, 70 degrees, and we had played a gig the night before, and I went outside. I wanted to enjoy the outside. I sat on the hood of my car, started strumming this thing, and I pretty much wrote the whole song right there. And I remember somebody yelling from the sixth floor, "What are you doing? I'm writing a song." Cool, thanks. And we ended up playing it the next week. And so I finally got around to, I kind of let it sit for a while after we left college and all. But about 4 or 5 years later, I got a call from our buddy Mike Ward. Hadn't spoken to him in 4 or 5 years. He called my parents' house, got my phone number, called me while I was out and about, and he goes, "Fearthaler, help me remember the words of your song. I got to this point and this point," and it's like, okay, I'm trying to remember the words of my song. And I told him right there, "Okay, thanks. Good talking to you. I'll talk to you soon." Just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He remembered it. He liked it that much. It's like, okay, one of these days I got to record it. So I finally got around to doing that last year. And that is one of my favorite songs. And a lot of times when I do write a tune, I'll get to that point where I'm stuck. And you work on it, and all of a sudden it loses its flair. It doesn't even, I don't know, I lose my enthusiasm in it. What was really cool and was attracting me to what I was creating at the time, suddenly it's like,
Right.
Just like when you listen to a song over and over again, it kind of gets from time to time.
Well, I don't know, man. There's some of them that I could listen to forever.
Yeah.
There's enduring, the melodies just stir a range of emotions in you. They just undeniable.
So what is your tools for songwriting? Do you just sit down at a 4-track, or use your smartphone, or?
Man, I mean, a lot of times, like, the simpler the better. Back in the days when they made cassette players where you could plug in like a microphone into the cassette player, I just had one of those set up on top of a practice amp in my living room. And so whenever I got good and ready, I'd go over there and just start bashing something out and hit play and record. And so there's stacks of tapes that exist it's a kick to go back and listen to those because you just forget about these great ideas you had or whatever. So I started like something like that, or, maybe I'm someplace and I just have a thought, or I hear something, or just something clicks, like just a few lines I can think of, or like that one from Sweet Euphoria where it's like, caught in the act of trying to be yourself. That came from a line in a book. And it was a book about the 101 Ranch.
101 Ranch.
It was a huge ranch out in western Oklahoma that they had a Wild West show.
Okay.
And so, it was 3 brothers, the Miller brothers. They had this Wild West show, and this book was written by Michael Wallace. He's a well-known Oklahoma author. He's written biographies of Frank Phillips and Davy Crockett, and he was the voice of one of the characters in Cars, and he's just a real interesting author. I love to read his stuff, and there was like this real heavy, part in the book where it was like, okay, they were, they had 100 head of livestock, they had, 30 actors, 30 natives, all, and they're taking this thing across all over the world in like, the late 1800s, and I mean the trouble they had to go through, and this, I mean, it was just real heavy part of the book, and then right in there it was like Caught in the Act of Trying to Be Yourself. I was like, man, that just that hit me right then, and so I just went from there, and it's kind of like I don't know. I read a lot. I listen to a lot of talk, and just try to listen for songs on the wind. I mean, they're out there if you know how to listen for them.
That's true. So I was just looking at my phone. I use my phone to dictate all my song ideas. I have over 9 years worth of ideas on this thing.
Yeah.
Now, some of them have turned into songs. Others are just little. Sometimes it's just like, here's a 41-second idea. So obviously, what tends to happen a lot of times is, before going to work and I need a 5-minute break from my kids, I'll go lock myself in my room and I'll just start strumming on the guitar, and then all of a sudden I'll start humming a melody. It's like, get the phone, come back to it later. And like I said, I'll go back. I did this just the other day, started going through and listening to these things, and it's like, wow, there's a lot of really good ideas on it. So I've instructed my family that if something were to ever happen to me, get this stuff, get it to Matt or somebody that can do something with it. So,
well, and yeah, man,
don't hack my phone for it.
I do the same. I do the same thing. When I get after the cassette era kind of went with the wayside, I've got, I have 2 of my old phones that are full of stuff.
Oh wow!
And so then, of
you
course,
dump
this
all that stuff together.
This one's got plenty of it. And so just you go back in there and you're like, hey, if somebody said to me tomorrow, let's do a hard rock album. Here's 10 of the best hard rock riffs. Let's start here. Yeah. Somebody said, hey, let's do a country record. Here's 10. And so it's like, you just keep on going, keep those juices flowing, just catch them in just the right mood, just the right vibe. And so that's what I try to do on the phone now. It's like you're going down the road, hit that voice recorder. Hey, I got this idea, and it goes like this, da 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 da, whatever it is, And then you get home and you try to copy it on the guitar, and you end up somewhere completely different.
Yeah,
it's just.
I'll start singing something in the car and go home and then try to figure out the key it is, and it's like, okay, I'm in the key of H flat, and that's obviously not going to work. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah. It sounds like we do a lot of the same stuff. Now, do you ever, like when you're working on your solos and stuff, construct your solos, actually try to compose them as opposed to improvising them?
Oh yeah.
Do you kind of like build motifs and work around those?
Oh yeah. Like you get out of the city. I remember sitting there out on my porch in July in the summertime, and I was just like, I was kind of stuck because we'd been playing that song for a long time with just me playing the chords behind, that was when we had Jay on keys and stuff, so he kind of filled in the leads and stuff, and so I was like, man, I need a really good solo for this recording, and so I just sat out there on the porch one July night, and I just listened to the woods, and I was like, you listen to the crickets, and you listen to the frogs, and you listen to the whippoorwills, and you listen to the owls, and you listen to the wind, and you listen to the cars, and it's like, let me just try to play this on my guitar,
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, it sounds so goofy and stupid, but man, I'm telling you,
nature's original music.
You've got to have that childlike curiosity, and just you've got to have that, or else everything sounds really forced and really like it's stressful. If you just have that, kind of mindset, then you come up with something like that. And so I played that for a while, and then when we recorded it, we had Jesse Aycock come in, and he played lap steel on it, and Ace mixed that all together where it sounded like an orchestra.
Nice.
And I mean, it's like it's an epic piece in the middle, and so I've heard it described to me where, like, you write in movements, like this movement is this song, part of the song, and then all of a sudden you're over here in this whole nother thing, and then a whole nother, it's like, I guess maybe that might be something that I kept from my classical training was, it's a different part of the song than the lyrics and the chorus and the verses and stuff, and like, there's the charm in just improvising solos. But, like your Randy Rhoads, your Zakk Wylde, your, people like that, they kind of composed a lot of that.
Right.
So when you go out and play Crazy Train, the listener is expecting to hear you
Exactly.
and your take on what Randy put down.
Right.
Not look at me on F sharp minor.
Right.
They're waiting for that trill at the top.
Mm-hmm.
They're waiting for the tapping at the beginning. They're waiting for that bend. Then they're going to judge you.
And there's certain solos that you
Yeah.
have to.
Right.
If you're going to cover them, you have to do it like that because
Yeah.
it's well, just like the organ part on Whiter Shade of Pale. You got to play it that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the song. if you
Now,
don't,
like
so.
something like Crossroads, right? Okay. I learned it by listening to One More from the Road by Leonard Skinner.
Mm-hmm.
I learned it note for note. Then I heard Wheels of Fire by Cream.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, my gosh, this is just those guys copying Eric Clapton.
Right.
So my version is kind of a smash up between both those versions,
Sure,
you know?
sure.
And kind of like, well, I've played it so many years and so many different times. It's like now I'm kind of like, now I can just spin it in my own way.
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit, you know? And so that's different than, you know, a composed solo. Like Get Out of the City's composed, Sunshine Smiles composed, Tail That Wags the Dog is composed. You know, my original music, a lot of it tends to be composed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so it's just, like I said, what is it? Is
Right.
it a sound? Is it a feeling? Is it a tone? Is it a lick? Is it, you know, I always like to try to speak through my music. You
Right,
know?
right.
I don't want to just play a sheet of notes just to play a sheet of notes. I
Right.
want to say something with my music too, you know.
That's the great thing about playing guitar is that you can do that. So you can make that guitar sing. So
Well, I just feel like as I've gotten older, man, I've just kind of become a little bit more in touch with my emotional side. I know that sounds, you know, weird, but
you'll be guest starring on The View next week.
no. Hey, you know, whatever. How much
Nothing
money
against
they got.
our View followers.
How much
so-
money they got, you know, whatever. But no, seriously, it's you sort
I
of
know.
like understand what you're feeling.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You get it. You're more connected. You're
Right.
more like you understand. And now, like, you know, all these years later, it just takes a while to be able to take that, understand that, and then put it out there with this instrument that you didn't grow up learning how to play and knew how to do it all at once. You had
Right.
to learn how to do it in
You
in
don't-
a while, and a lot of trial and error, and a lot of like, you know, whatever. So
And the way you learn it and the style that you're learning it changes as you change. As
totally,
Well. So it's
totally does.
you know, the way I look at the guitar. It's a lot different than 30, 40 years ago. So that's for sure.
Absolutely is, man. I look at some of this stuff and I don't even know who it is playing, but it's me, and I'm like, really? That doesn't sound like me at all.
Do you ever get into those situations where you'll play something and you're like, I know I wrote this, but you can't really remember how you wrote it and what brought it about?
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of those classical guitar pieces I wrote that we used in my wedding and stuff. It's like Vierthaler Sonata number one's one of them. It's like I remember writing this. It was several years before I met my wife to be, and it's like I remember writing it, played it quite a bit, then stopped playing it. And then when I was starting to work on the music for our wedding, I remembered it. It's like I started playing it again. It's like, wow, yes, I did write this. I do remember this, but I don't really remember how I did it and why I did it and what frame of mind I was in. It's just one of those things that's just there. So
It's magic, man. That's the
Yeah.
magic.
yeah,
And all those cliches about catching lightning in a bottle, I believe it.
Sure,
It's true.
sure.
It's very true. You know, sometimes you feel real inspired, and other times it's just like you're just looking for the light somewhere. And maybe it's supposed to be that way. You just can't force it. You know, I can never go, hey, I'll meet you Thursday at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Let's write a song that
Right.
sounds like this or that or
Well,
whatever.
how many all-nighters did we spend at the studio back in the day and hey, let's write a song, let's do this, and came out of there with nothing. And then one day, just boom, hey, there's Truck
Right.
Stop Sinatra.
I know, man.
We're, what was the one that you and I wrote for ourselves? Legends in Our Minds. Yeah, we when we were gigging together, and we wanted to kind of have a theme song for us, so we just wrote this little song. Well, you may not know our name, but we're sure damn glad you came.
Yeah, I don't even
Stand up, sing along, and
I was
something like
trying
that.
to remember stuff like that.
We're two ordinary guys. Something eyes. But
That'll
we're
be in the
le-
box set.
Yeah, we're legends in our minds. So, oh yeah, that's right. Two ordinary guys, but we're legends in our minds. But you probably knew that all along. Something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
Great lyrics, right?
Yeah, man, those
How many
lyrics are
bottles
good.
of what did we drink for that?
Oh
right?
well, you know, we got a Jim Beam coming in a pipe.
Oh yeah, good times. So I saw this guy a YouTube video, and he's talking about motifs and how I guess he went to school to learn classical composition and stuff like that, and he was showing this technique where you take a motif and then the next bar or two you reverse it, and then you invert it here, and then you reverse and invert it here. Now you got these 4 different variations on this motif, and I don't know the actual names of them right now. But he said that his teacher said that if you can master this, that you could shit out music all day long.
Yeah.
And it makes a good point. It's like, so I kind of taken that approach, especially when I'm writing my guitar solos. A lot of times I'll look for the motif in the chorus, if it's a really good, strong chorus melody. Now, I don't like duplicating the chorus. I will in certain situations, like when we're playing in church and things, if that's what it calls for. But I'll maybe start with that motif and then start reversing things and working it back and forth, and then adding fills in between there. That's how I kind of construct some of my solos.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to work out pretty well for me, because I'm not a shredder, and don't really want to be. There's no real market for a shredder these days. So
There is, but man, I mean, it's like people put a lot of pressure on themselves just to be the fastest guitarist.
Right.
And you know what? Your average listener, they don't know the difference.
Yep.
Fast is fast.
Yep.
And, it's like, I think that fast is one technique.
Mm-hmm.
One. It's not everything.
Right.
But you'll see, it's usually, I've taught enough of these 14-year-old boys who they want to shred. Like, you should learn how to tune it and learn how to play a D chord first.
Yes.
And learn the scales first, because
Right.
it's not just random notes. That's what I thought it was just random notes
Yep.
at first.
On jazz, maybe. But
It's scales, and so, I try to teach them musicality first.
Mm-hmm.
Serve the song, serve the song, serve the song. You will remember Midnight Rider 100 years from now. You will not remember the mystical Potato Head Groove thing.
Nice.
Okay? Simple.
Yeah.
And, like, if you're lost for a melody playing a solo, think about the singer. Pretend you're Greg Allman, but you do it on a guitar.
Right.
Pretend you're Ray Charles, do it on a guitar. And so
It's a good starting point, yeah.
between those, like, little techniques, I mean, creativity can flow a lot smoother and a lot easier if you try to just force it and try to be, I want to be Michael Schenker. Well, there already is one Michael Schenker.
Right.
There's already one Pat Travers. You got to be yourself, and it takes a while to get to that point where you're accepting of that, and you understand that, hey, there's already one of my hero. What am I doing trying to copy him? It's not going to serve me any benefits if I'm just like another half-assed Eddie Van Halen ripoff. There's millions of them, and where do they get? Nowhere.
Right.
Most of them.
Yeah. And I also heard a quote one time, and it said something to the effect of, music is the silence between the notes.
Absolutely.
And even in art, when you're doing graphic design and things like that, it's the strategic use of white space is a lot of times what creates your composition and makes it.
That lesson got taught to me real loud and clear when I started playing the bass. It's like you're playing the notes, but you're also playing the space between the notes.
Right.
And it's illustrated really simply. Like, think about just a one-note groove. How many ways can you play one note? I mean, you can play da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You can play dun 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 dun. You can play any number of ways, and it's up to you to decide and understand and feel what's best for this song. Hey, we really want the vocalist to be heard in this section of the song. I want to play this back.
Right.
Now when we get to the chorus, now we're really driving it, so now I can maybe play twice what I'm playing in the verses. Now, in the solo, I'm really going to be playing with the ride cymbal and the kick drum in the solo, and we want to boost this up so the soloist has a big old saddle to sit on, And feel is the toughest thing to learn, but just playing bass is where it really kind of started to manifest itself, and I understood what people meant, when they say, oh, he's got great feel. And I was like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, well, it's, sometimes ending the note before you think it would end. I was noticing when I was recording that demo the other day, I pulled out the bass, and it's like I just wanted simple one notes in there because it's just a real simple, laid-back guitar groove, and it's like, well, I don't have to play it for the entire time before I change the other. I can actually let it stop a couple nanoseconds. Then
Duration
go to the next
of notes.
Duration of notes, yeah, and it changed the feel just doing that.
Totally.
Because I'm not a bass player. I know how to play it, but I'm not a bass player. So learning that right there has just kind of opened up my eyes a little bit more, just that little technique.
I've worked with some of, I believe, to be the world's most accomplished bass players.
You've had some good guys.
And they taught me a lot about feel, about groove, about placement of notes, about duration of notes, about when in doubt, lay it out. I mean, just, those are things that like are musicality. And really, when you get down to it, the bass, they've got a really important job. And people try to dismiss the bass as a stupid idiot's instrument. That is furthest from the truth.
Not at all.
You've got to have a different level of musicality because you're working with 4 crayons as opposed to 6.
That is true.
You're not going to be able to use those 4 crayons quite as fast as you can use the 6 crayons.
And you're not a lead instrument, but you are definitely leading.
Right.
So that's
exactly.
Yeah.
When the bass says it's G, it's G.
It better be G, yes.
Because if you try to get that, say it's F sharp, it's not going to work.
No.
The bass says it's G.
Exactly.
The bass player runs the room, runs the show, runs the groove, and if the bass playing sucks, it's not going to be listenable.
No, that is true. I think we've all had experiences when the bass players hit the wrong note, and you're just like, ugh. A lot of times with the guitar, it's just, you can kind of fudge it a little bit, but because some chords carry the same notes, so it'll sound all right. But when the bass player hits the wrong note,
yeah.
and
it's like you feel it. You don't necessarily consciously hear it,
but
you
it's
feel
there,
it,
and it's there loudly. So,
people don't necessarily know. They don't necessarily know that the bass playing's off. What they know is it doesn't make me feel good like this other song or this other person who plays the same song makes me feel. But it's a subconscious thing. That's what I've been able to figure out.
So you don't think you'd want to go to Nashville and be a songwriter for hire, get locked in a cubicle with 2 or 3 other songwriters, and
I don't know, man. I mean,
5 days a week?
I think that,
and shit out music?
I think that's how it starts to become a little too formulaic.
Right.
It
absolutely is.
Our competing label has this song, this artist kind of like this. Let's try to do that.
Right.
Man, that's not what this was all created for. It was created for artistic expression. And I'm a free spirit. I just don't think I would do very good in a situation like that. Although the steady income would be nice, I just don't think I would really want to pursue that. Really.
No, me neither. I'd much rather just sit down with you and crank out a song once in a while and enjoy it.
We got to write some more stuff.
Well, we definitely got to do that. So I just got to send the family on more vacations, I think.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm definitely going to start carving out some time. Got to get these videos going. Got to start writing some music together again.
Man, your to-do list is as long as mine, I guarantee you.
Yeah, we know how it's like. It's, there's this whole thing I've been kind of pondering and hypothesizing about. There's a lot of talk about the work-life balance. The problem is that it's not just A and B. It's not just work, and then life is all the fun stuff you want to do, because life, often that part of it, is just as busy. So there's actually 3 phases. So you got work, life, and then whatever your joy is, what your passion is, what your dreams are. So it's those 3 things there, and trying to balance all 3 of them sometimes it becomes even more difficult. Because it's like I was telling you the other day too. It's just I had a day off of work, but I worked harder doing just stuff for running errands and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Than I did when I was sitting on my tail in a cubicle.
Yeah, right.
It's just trying to balance all that kind of stuff. So there you go, a little philosophical lesson to go with your songwriting.
So maybe one of our next topics should be time management.
Oh, absolutely. I think it should be. Absolutely. Well, that's the other thing I was noticing too. And I did have like an hour and a half. It was on the 4th of July that I had to cut this demo for the band to play at church today. So I sat down an hour and a half. It's like, okay, I just put together a quick little drum track through GarageBand and, laid down the bass line, laid down a couple of strumming of the acoustic guitars and watching the clock. It's like, okay, I'll just lay down the vocals and then got it all done. It's like, I am not happy with any of this. I rushed the guitars too much. The bass could have been better. The vocals were less than stellar. But you can't just cram this stuff into an hour and a half session like we talked about earlier. So, so time management is definitely the key on that too.
Absolutely.
All right.
That sounds like a good topic for a future episode.
I believe it should be. I believe it should be. So, but until then, good ideas on songwriting and solo writing, and got to write what you feel. Bob Dylan wrote a lot of songs based on what he thought and felt, and it worked out pretty well for him.
Man, here's the thing. It's like, when I realized the power of music, when I realized that maybe sometimes I wasn't very good at communicating what I felt and what I thought, and I could do it at 120 decibels, that's when it became, like, necessary for me to do this,
Yep.
It's like, it's so liberating to go, man, I'm having trouble communicating to people, but I can get my point across through my music, and I can do that easier than I can talking to them.
Yeah, it's it's very, very soothing too. I wrote a song a couple months ago, dealing with the whole thing with my dad and stuff. Is based totally about that thing. It's one of my favorite songs. Maybe 2 or 3 people out there in the world will get it and understand it, but it's going to be one of the ones I'm going to record.
How many people in the world have a dad?
Yeah.
Everybody's got a dad.
True.
And so they can all relate to that.
Yeah. So it'll be one of the ones we'll do in one of those live sessions. So
awesome. That sounds cool, man.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Get that fired up. I want to see.
I need to. Gotta just start picking out probably a Friday night, I think. If a Friday night about 9 o'clock, and I'll just put the cameras on and get the recording plus tax, get the recording equipment fired up and just run through a couple of takes till it sounds good, and then I'll throw it out there on Spotify and iTunes, and you guys get the nice.
And y'all can steal it to your heart's content.
Stream it. I still getting some streams off of the Christmas Time Blues, if you can believe it. Nice. I made like 5 cents on it last month. Woo!
That was what, for like 50,000 streams or something?
No, it wasn't too much. The difference, because it's on all the different services. So I got something from like a couple pennies from Facebook, got a couple cents from here and there, and it's just a numbers game, The more stuff you have out there, more content, right?
That's what we're working on.
Awesome. All right, well, until next time, this is Matt and Mark's About Music podcast. I am the Mark half of that, and this is
Matt.
The Matt half of it. So be good, right to your heart's content. Peace.